ladies come up there because of the fact that, you know, it wasn't like that at the beginning. I mean, women had very much of an equal say in everything, but with the coming of the Catholic Church and different groups like that, this whole idea that the men are the bosses. So they actually were having these meetings. They wouldn't allow women to come into their meetings, making decisions about the camp. And here's this on her land. I mean, you know. And she said, I'm going to let them know, you know. But what happened was, of course, I understand in the past when they were making treaties, when they made these treaties, this is what, if you broke your word, you got killed. And so this was a very much of a thing about war. And it was men sitting down there to settle their differences, and it wasn't that women weren't important. It's just the whole context. You have to remember that if you signed it, you died for it if you broke it. So it wasn't somehow they excluded women, but now they carry that on and say, oh, well, you know, we're... So there's been a lot of colonization gone on to certain degrees. I think back in South Dakota and North Dakota, where women have kind of been, they bought into this churchianity idea that women are evil and all this.
Phil, can you talk a bit about what's going on here in Vancouver? Like, give an update on...
Well, what's happened, essentially what's happened is Trudeau in his election promises said that he was really going to honor First Nations, etc., etc. And so after his election, he struck a 3-person committee to go out and listen to First Nations and so forth, follow up on this report that was given him that suggested to go forward with this. The problem with it is, and Ruben alluded to it last night, was just consultation with Native people for 40 minutes is not consultation. Now, the one person, one Aboriginal person on that committee is a former chief of the, where that ferry goes across.
Tsawwassen?
Tsawwassen. But she was very, very close to, and we have got footage of that chief on the panel with the president of Kinder Morgan, Ian Anderson. So they're very close. So right from the get-go, they saw that this committee really was stacked against them. Now the thing is there's so much protocol about not saying anything about another First Nation, you know, that nobody wants to come out and say it within, you know what I mean, kind of this respect for each buddy. So nobody's really brought that issue out, but it's there behind the scenes. And I'm sure at the proper time, if need be, it'll be brought out. But they're really not listing in. So where we're at is this: that in December, Justin Trudeau and the government of Canada will need to make the decision whether or not Kinder Morgan goes through or not. And on the 1st, Charlene was telling me that she's going to try to get over for a couple of days over to South Dakota. They go in direct negotiation with the feds about this. And I think the feds understand that they're really going to have a tough time having this happen. But at the same time, they're trying to seek, well, what are the alternatives? And so she asked me about it, and I said, well, the thing is that at this point in history, because of the new advances in batteries, where now that's been the big problem, they haven't been able to store solar. But they've made some recent breakthroughs that have gone into new batteries that are environmentally friendly. That's been part of the battery issue. It's some of the materials they use in the batteries are not very environmentally friendly. But you know, if they just put the money into the research and get the batteries set, and now like IKEA here, all the IKEA stores in Europe all have solar on top of them. I mean, so a lot of these, Google is buying up tremendous amounts of solar. So, I mean, really, if you think of the $1 trillion of going into war and going into these other things, there's funds to really, in the next few years, move a lot of this into alternative energy. And so, in a way, the idea of building these huge pipelines is just not good economic sense. It's not just because of the fact that it's environmentally destructive. It just doesn't make sense, because at the price of oil, $45 a barrel, and you can see the global supply is not, demand is not going up. The time to take to pay off these pipelines will be years, years and years. And so why build this infrastructure when in fact this infrastructure itself is collapsing? It's collapsing in the United States, it's collapsing in Canada. A lot of these sewer systems, a lot of these old pipelines, a lot of the infrastructure is really old. Now, I don't know in the state of Washington, I'm probably the same. Bridges, you know, so my perspective is, here we go, right here. Is that we need to begin putting resources into rebuilding 152 Surrey, yep. We already went across the bridge? Well, this must take us through another route across the bridge. Yeah, this does. Yeah, here we go. So that's what they pretty well, I think, have given up on this Kinder Morgan pipeline to a certain level, but they want to know what's the alternatives. And so I think that's the key. Now, today, in federal court in Washington, D.C., is going to be the big case. We want to get on to Highway 50, whatever we do here. Is going to be the big day today by 5 o'clock on Washington, D.C. time, whether or not the federal government grants this injunction or against the Corps of Engineers and forces them to go back and do an environmental impact statement and all that.
It's Standing Rock, or?
It's in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a big protest going on in Washington, D.C. today at the courthouse.
But over the Dakota Access Pipeline,
over the
right?
Dakota Access Pipeline. So by December, Kinder Morgan will be decided. By today, we'll have we'll get a chance to see what's going to happen. Now, the interesting thing is when Obama, after that action that took place, that kind of Cabo Indian Alliance thing took place, the place he came to speak 2 weeks after that was in Cannonball. That's where he spoke. That's where they brought the whole Great Sioux Nation to hear him speak. So he has a personal relationship, plus Jody Archambault, his special assistants from Standing Rock.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, this may be, yeah, here we go, 152. This may be completely a pipe dream, but if the state of South Dakota, you have another funny thing going on. You've got a federal judge in Bismarck that was supposed to make a hearing on this restraining order against the protest. Do this on Thursday. He's postponed it now to 8th of September. Probably waiting to see what they're going to do in D.C. But the problem there is that he is still forbidding protest. Now, I mean, there's certainly a precedent if they continue to do these things to the camp, and if somebody, they have gone to the White House, they've gone to the United Nations, that Obama has the power to stop this thing, as well as send in troops,
National Guard
to protect the rights of the people there to protest. This is a right. Plus, they're violating all these treaty rights. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's the right to assemble. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly,
and so
freedom to petition your grievance.
That's right.
These are constitutional agreements that every American's been raised to believe in. And here they are with the Indian people and the governor of North Dakota trying to incite violence.
Yeah, and then really, truly, I've got it on video. I've got the Morton County Sheriff who was working in close with this elder. And the elder says, I was really surprised. He said, we've been working together and the next thing I know, he comes out and says, we're armed, we have pipe bombs, and they've heard shots. And then they're saying the reason they took all the water out of there was there was unruly behavior. There's no unruly behavior. This is just simply, I think it's setting the stage for coming in there and having an excuse.
It goes all the way back to Brown versus Board of Education, where the state wants to resist the rights of the people. That's what's going on. And they're using the color of state law.
Yes.
You know, and they're taking advantage of the idea of the United States protecting itself post 9/11. And so what he's trying to do is make it look like the natives are some type of terrorist faction, when in fact he's pulling out water, he's stopping the sewer services that are going to impact the health of the women, children, and the elders in the camp.
Yep.
People that are gathered to pray.
Exactly. And I mean, and to pull the sanitation, the capacity to empty those things. I mean, this is about disease, and they're talking about safety.
Yeah, and everyone that's arriving at the camp is committing themselves to nonviolence, committing themselves.
Right. But I have to say, I've just, I've really been spending a lot of time the last 4 days supporting this by, posting all these things everywhere. That they're really winning the PR battle. It's like when they went to the state capitol in Bismarck, and they wouldn't allow them to come on the state capitol land. They said it would have to be 2-week notice. But they were right across the street, and they brought in really a lot of police in riot gear and kind of semi-riot gear. And after they got done, they went across the street and they lined up and shook hands with all the police. They even had some police round dancing, because they don't realize some of those police are married into the Lakotas, and they've been sweat lodges. So they have, they're causing dissension within the ranks of the police.
So we'll be there for a couple of days, but then we're also going up to Winnipeg for a couple of days. And Phil, I was wondering if you could talk about what's going on up there with the pipeline.
Yeah, I think there's something to note there too. We're also scheduled just privately to go to be with the keeper of the White Buffalo Calf Pipe, which is a very, very special honor we're going to have. Just quietly go to Greengrass with Orville Looking Horse, Chief Orville Looking Horse, and he's a 19th generation keeper of this pipe, and there's a pipe house there. He's going to open that up for prayer and give prayers there. So I think that's going to be and I'm sure he'll want to give a statement on behalf of the totem pole. We'll get him there, maybe a picture of the I don't know if they allow pictures of the pipe house, but we won't get pictures of the pipe, but pictures of him praying having a prayer for the pipe, for the thing will really be a big meaning. But then what's happening in Winnipeg is Portage Avenue is the main road through Winnipeg. I mean, a major road. And I don't know if they must be blocking the whole road off for this time of this march, because they're going to have all these Eagle staff bearers. So we're going to have all these Eagle staffs, and everybody with a headdress will be there. That'll be followed by elders and so forth. And then right behind that will be the totem pole will be going, many other people. And then we're going to take a trip through the part of Winnipeg this is the very most poor part of Winnipeg, where what you might say that almost the Native American ghetto. And of course they want to go slow enough so people can come out and put their hand on the totem pole, pray, maybe stop at different places. I don't know how they're going to do that. So that'll swing around, and we're going to go to to a place to have prayers. Now, what's happening there is because the pipeline has been blocked so far coming west of that tar sands. They want to run a tar sands pipeline all the way from Alberta clear across Canada to the east coast. So that's they call them Energy East. This pole's going to stand in opposition of Energy East. And this one directly, that's why you'll have the Mohawks there.
Yeah.
This one directly impacts all those nations across Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, clear to New Brunswick. So this is a big deal. Big deal.
Great.
Thank you.